Maybe this is the key to the jail cell.
It all started when I got invited to another wedding this year. It happened to be in the same location as another Nancy Drew game. My best friend, who you may recognize from the back of her head in my last episode, needing to arrive early in the interest of performing her duties as a bridesmaid, faced the same formidable foe as Bess and George in this game. Canceled flights.
Where are you guys?
Guess.
Uh-oh, I'm not going to like this, am I?
So, in the dead of night, we drove across the southwestern region of the United States to arrive in Phoenix, Arizona at 2 in the morning on a Friday. With all the determination of Nancy Drew when she discovers that someone wants to give her an all-expenses-paid trip in exchange for getting clocked in the back of the head here and there. And as the sun rose that same morning, I felt the call of a concussion-free Nancy Drew vacation that would be my favorite one yet. But before I tell you wholeheartedly that this vacation had some of my favorite activities that I've done in the name of Nancy Drew, let me give you a fun new recap of what this series is all about. My name is Emily, for those of you who don't know, and this is the 3rd episode in my endeavor to visit every Nancy Drew PC game location and make videos about it. There are 34 Nancy Drew games and multiple spin-offs featuring fictional locations, non-fictional locations, and for the most part, fictional locations based on or in non-fictional locations. And that is to say, I'm going to all of them. And no, maybe I haven't quite figured out how to replicate Nancy's fictional hometown of River Heights yet. But that's not what's important right now. What's important is that I'm striving to make the kind of content that I would want to watch myself. And that means catering to a very small group of individuals that love 90s to early 2000s computer games a little bit too much. And this is where I would normally say that if that's not you, you should get lost. But this time, I'm advising you to stick around anyways and see if you can recover a piece of your childhood that you missed out on. Because the only thing I love more than Nancy Drew, or at least equally, is traveling. And in setting this extremely ambitious goal, I'm hoping to learn something bigger about the world, about myself, and about the multitude of meanings within Nancy Drew. So, stick around until the end of this video for a little PSA about my ethos of Nancy Drew travels. Without further ado, I'm about to take on the consistently rated #1 fan favorite game of Her Interactive's entire collection of Nancy Drew games. Game number 10, The Secret of Shadow Ranch. And just what makes it the most beloved game? Is it the plucky soundtrack? The horse girl aesthetic?
What a beautiful horse. Well, hello there.
The romantic tragedy of Francis Humber and Dirk Valentine?
Meet me on Friday at noon by the Big Picture Rock. I love you, Dirk.
Or the romantic tragedy of a sexy cowboy flirting with Nancy and being able to do nothing about it?
And the human heart never does seem to play by the rules.
It's all of the above. And for every person who lacks the proper respect for picking a green bean that is slightly larger than the other green beans,
And just as soon as you've developed the proper respect for produce, we'll invite you back.
there's a dozen other girls falling in line to get pecked to death by the Chicken of Doom. As some of you may also remember that a few years ago, a big group of Clue Crew folks took a little fandom trip to Phoenix, so some of my trip ideas might look a little familiar, but I promise I'm not trying to crowd anyone's elbow room.
Hey, you're crowding me here, Nancy. I need elbow room when I cook.
Sorry.
I'm just planning to get every detail of this trip right. After all, what could be better than waking up in a Homewood Suites in Central Phoenix? The first morning of the trip, Genevieve and I fueled up on free continental breakfast and got ready to hunt down a representation of the first location Nancy travels to in the game, Mary's Gifts. After exploring the ranch and proving she won't fall off her horse, which we'll get to later, Nancy makes a beeline to go support her local Native American-owned small business. And by support, I mean pester the owner, Mary Yazzie, give her stuff for free. For my part, unlike Nancy, I was willing to pay $26 to see a collection of native artworks and learn about the history of local tribes. So we headed for the Heard Museum. The Heard Museum is a private nonprofit in Phoenix that seeks to show local tribes' art and artifacts. But the way that I found it was not just looking for these objects. I was looking for an amazing gift shop. Luckily, the Heard Museum is home to one of the best gift shops in the entire valley, and it's not just my opinion. They've actually been ranked for this. In my footage, you will see incredible handcrafted blankets, which are arguably one of the most popular forms of native art that people like to collect and display in their homes. You'll also see handcrafted jewelry that just brings back the ring sorting puzzle all over again. But there's lots of imagery and objects that just perfectly emulated the vibes inside of Mary's shop. And in addition to all that, we got immersed in the very thoughtful perspectives offered by the contemporary arts and the artifacts inside the museum. Now, I need to move through the footage fairly quickly, but if you pause here, you can read the Heard Museum land acknowledgement that explains what tribes occupied the land that the museum sits on and a lot of the surrounding area, which could have some kind of link to Mary Yazzie. As we made our way through the gift shop and the museum, I could not help but notice how many of these artists had the last name Yazzie. So that's either great research on the part of Her Interactive, or they just decided to go with the first last name they were likely to stumble across. Who knows? On the subject of determining the accuracies of the game, if you watched my last video, you'll remember that the influence of Native American culture on the mining towns in Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon is completely overlooked. But luckily, it is at least mentioned in this game, and even if it is a small part, a game taking place in Phoenix would just be noticeably incomplete without it. Mary Yazzie specifically references the Anasazi because they created the astonishing labyrinthine cliff dwellings that people associate with the Arizona territory. And these locations become very important later on in the game. But the Anasazi were actually a very ancient tribe that had fully vacated their land around 1300 AD. This was way before the 1492 Ocean Blue thing, and the Heard Museum can kind of fill in the gaps about what was going on in the lands and the names of the tribes that actually inhabited this area in a time period closer to when the game takes place. Still, she never talks about it. And maybe that's because there's a dark history in this region that the developers deemed inappropriate for children. On the upper floor of the museum, Genevieve and I spent some time in the exhibition dedicated to remembering the history of Indian boarding schools. I want to include some of that information here, but if you're not already familiar with this piece of history, I'll give you a fair warning that it isn't a kid-friendly topic, despite the fact that the primary victims of this part of American history were all children. But I don't want to skip this just because the game is lighthearted and fun. In fact, there is one part of this game that tends to get the waterworks flowing, and coincidentally has something to do with children leaving their homes and never coming back.
She'll never come back to Shadow Ranch, and it is my fault. I'll just have to find a way to live with it.
You'll see some footage of the graphics and displays here, but there's one piece that haunts the atmosphere around the opening hallways. As you walk through and read the ominous warnings of parents and children expressing fear, knowing that they will soon be separated and sent to schools away from their families to be assimilated into Western ideology, and racist slurs integrated with talk of using education to save money on eradicating the entire native population. You'll hear a faint sound getting louder and louder as you walk deeper in. Unsure where it's coming from, you'll press on past testimonies of inhumanity as the source of the sound finally dawns on you. The snipping of scissors. And with it, the forceful shedding of identity. I couldn't overlook the powerful emotional effect of this piece as I continued to learn about all the things, good and bad, that happened within these schools, which changed the trajectory of Native culture. If there's one thing about Nancy Drew that could inform her target audience politically, it's her expansion of the very definition of justice, even when it means risking her life to reach back into the past and uncover a greater sense of truth. To go back into a closed book and rewrite an ending that better reflects the whole story. More often than she investigates crime, she investigates history, taking her magnifying glass to the unsavory ripples that greed creates in the present and refusing to turn a blind eye to injections of harm, even when she could take a free vacation instead. There's never a wrong time to make sure that these kinds of issues do not persist in our country or world for that matter in the present day. And if a Nancy Drew game has opened the door for me to learn and share about the lessons history has to teach, then that game has done its job well. I collected my traditional trip postcard, noting how many little details are interactive included in the game that match the regional artistic staples. Since Jen had to head off to fulfill her bridesmaid duties, I continued on solo to the moment you've all been waiting for, to the perfect package for ranching, riding, and a cowboy cookout, my real-life representation of Shadow Ranch. This is McDonald's Ranch in Scottsdale, Arizona. As I winded my way out of the city, buildings became sparse and saguaros became abundant. I knew I was heading the right way. From the moment I rolled onto the property, the spirit of a cowboy took over me, and I felt a strong urge to start talking like Tex.
You ain't gonna last more than 3 days out here.
The grounds had so many little details, just like the game, but the one that really got me was the fortune-telling machine, which Nancy is of course no stranger to, but the fact that this one was named Pappy was simply too perfect.
Beneath Cappy's keys, Pappy's name, please.
After exploring a little bit, I got set up for my horseback ride and opted to wear the helmet just like Nancy Drew taught me. In the game, Nancy is matched with Bob, a bay horse that is literally the best boy.
Come on, Bob.
We love Bob and we would die for Bob.
Better not leave old Bob behind.
But for my ride, they matched me up with Dusty, a halflinger breed which is apparently universally loved for leisurely riding. And I love him. I love him so much. We rode for about an hour and a half around the open desert and took in gorgeous views of the mountains. Because I was visiting in a very green time of year, we had to stop our horses from eating the grass on the trail. And since Nancy Drew already traumatized me enough on this topic, I couldn't help but take it very seriously.
Uh-oh.
I will never forget the feeding puzzle trauma of accidentally killing Bob. And despite the fact that Nancy's in-game map doesn't quite reflect the location of Shadow Mountain's surrounding area accurately, you can't really expect to travel everywhere in present-day Phoenix by horse. Plus, you can still find every aspect of the game's setting somewhere in the region. After spending some delightful quality time with Dusty, our group dismounted for the event that really solidified my choice to come to McDonald Ranch for this trip. In the winter months, for around $140, they offer a cowboy cookout following your guided trail ride, complete with food, campfires, and cowboy singing. Plus, if you call on the phone, they'll give you a discount code just for asking. Since I was flying solo for this part of the adventure, it was up to me to mingle with the rest of the group and make some friends so we could eat our giant heaping plates of food together and listen to the gentle guitar.
The Raleighs wanted to have a cookout tonight, and by golly, we're gonna have a cookout no matter who is or isn't here.
All dressed up to the brim. Said he just came down from a place called Heinrich. Said he came to ride the horse, one they called the brute. But he didn't look like a cowboy in that continental suit.
Close enough. Welcome back, Shorty Thurmond.
And she'll be coming around the mountain when she goes. Yodelay.
We did all this together before roasting marshmallows on into the night. And this cookout was completely phantom free. Unfortunately, this ranch isn't somewhere where you can spend the night. So my plan for the night was the next best thing, and it's technically more accurate to the game. I went to stay with my friend's aunt and uncle. Therefore, I found myself once again driving through the night to experience the next aspect of Nancy's journey, the rugged red rocks and petroglyphs of the beautiful desert in Sedona. There, I met up with my friends, Olivia and Jason. Jason is a fellow Nancy Drew fan whose aunt and uncle were kind enough to host us for the evening. Sorry guys, I decided not to record the inside of their house. But instead, here's a little bit about Jason. Jason has been a Clue Crew member for as long as I can recall, and it quickly bonded us together as kids. We would use our mom's emails to tell each other whenever we beat a new game. So, the next morning, the three of us got up bright and early to hike Cathedral Rock, an experience that Bess, George, and Nancy might have had if their flights arrived on time. Cathedral was a fairly easy hike up until the end, where we climbed a couple hundred feet straight upwards to get to the top. But if you do this hike, just make sure you have good traction on your shoes, and don't be afraid to use 5 points of contact on your way back down. The views were extremely rewarding. This area probably most closely represents the Cougar Bend location, but there's so many trails and sites in Sedona that feature elements of petroglyphs, rock formations, and cliff dwellings that Nancy interacts with. We ended up being too late to visit the Crane petroglyph site in a separate area, but luckily, on our way back down Cathedral Rock, a friendly stranger stopped by to say that if we went just a few feet down a side trail, we'd uncover a completely unadvertised petroglyph site whose location is hidden to prevent graffiti and vandalism. And that felt like something that Nancy would have done. So if you ever find yourself on this trail someday, see if you can discover this mystery location for yourself. And obviously, be respectful of it. Now, the three of us had to trek all the way back down to southern Phoenix for the aforementioned wedding. But as a bonus on our way out, we stopped by Montezuma's Castle. It's a large and incredibly well-preserved cliff dwelling that only costs about $10 to see. Visitors are no longer allowed to access the castle itself, but you can see stunning views in just a quick pit stop. After another hefty drive through the evening, we settled in for the night in Queen Creek, Arizona, and awoke on day 3, the big day. Though no weddings take place in the game, it seemed fitting to have a celebration of love in a video about the most romantic game in the series, full of flirting and forbidden flings.
You got a steady back home?
Then, at the Dave & Buster's after party, we embodied Nancy Paul Bunyan Drew with some axe throwing.
Just call me Nancy Paul Bunyan Drew.
And some arcade games that are slightly less torturous than the ones in the game. Plus, we were able to have an encounter with some wedding cake to stand in for the iconic Shadow Ranch cake.
Do you think I could have a piece of cake?
For the final day of the trip, all of us friends had to part ways. But I was determined to get one last crucial location from this game on my own. A place that is likely many people's favorite location in the whole game, the Dry Creek Ghost Town. So I went where others have gone before and followed Her Interactive's blog-approved location, the Goldfield Ghost Town. Not too far from the Superstition Mountains is an old mining town that's been converted into a tourist-friendly adventure. You can get all the frontier aesthetic backdrops and scenery of Dry Creek, not to mention some beautiful rock formations, without the eerie, abandoned atmosphere of feeling like there's somebody watching you.
I'm getting the definite feeling I'm not alone.
If I'm being honest, I didn't actually do any of the extra activities here, partially because I preferred to spend my budget on the cowboy cookout, but also because they aren't necessarily activities you'd see in-game. Nevertheless, they offer mine tours, train rides, horseback rides, museum tours, eateries, and shopping of all kinds. Handcrafted goods, apothecary goods, and handmade ceramics are just some of the things you can find here. But I saved my one purchase for an ice-cold caramel latte. Speaking of lattes, this is where I recap some of my other food highlights from the trip that I didn't know how to fit in the rest of the video. Shorty would be proud to see that we had some regionally inspired food, but nothing we had to pick ourselves.
You picked every single thing that was out there.
I must say, when it comes to these dishes, even the crumbs were crisp.
Even the crumbs are crisp?
And I didn't leave any behind. In the past, I considered The Secret of Shadow Ranch my own favorite game for many years. And when I replay it, I'm drawn back to its perfection. It always remains near the top of the list for me for qualities that you see reflected in the incredibly detailed immersion of these early games. Throughout the series, there are games that emerge where the setting doesn't seem to take on as much of a personality of its own, but Shadow Ranch is not such a game. The setting here is a forceful presence that determines the direction for the characters in the puzzle they chose to include. The specificity of ranch life makes its atmosphere so inviting to return to, and I hope this video gives you a glimpse of that atmosphere in the real world.
You should have seen the look on everyone's face when I rode up on a glowing horse. Love, Nancy. P.S. I started reading the Charlene Purcell novel Aunt Bet has, and you know what? I can't put it down.
Here's Shorty.
Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video so I can give you a little PSA about my video making process. Since I'm a few episodes deep into the series, I hope you've been enjoying. I just wanted to talk a little bit about my video making process and some of the things that I value when it comes to making these videos. Because in the Nancy Drew community, we can all agree this is not an influencer culture. This is not about getting people to spend money on trips. This is not about influencing people to buy things. This is about a rewarding experience and education. And that's a value that is upheld by the games and I believe by the community as well. Since probably the year 2005, I've had my Message in a Haunted Mansion CD, and I've never replaced it. So this is not a video game franchise that wants you to spend money on it over and over again. I ultimately want these to be amateur, just like Nancy considers herself an amateur detective. It doesn't mean she's a bad detective. It means that it's not about the money for her, and that's the case for me. I'm just excited to take these trips and be able to share them with other people. A lot of the locations that Nancy has been to, I've already been to, and so to go back, the express purpose is to make a video so that I can share it and to have a little diary and a little scrapbook of all my past cases, if you will. When it comes to these videos, I want people to know that I have structured my life and my work around being able to do a lot of travel and having a flexible schedule, but I also want to help people if they are trying to make these kinds of trips happen for themselves, and I want to be transparent about the budgeting that goes with that. Part of that is finding people to stay with, adding it onto a sunken cost I'm already taking, and in addition, I do work for a hotel business, so I am frequently able to get discounts, which helps me afford these trips. I don't use any programs to write these scripts. I write them myself. There's no AI. I make these videos with my phone and with iMovie, which is a free program that is already on my laptop. You can make excellent content, and I know this because I have been watching Nancy Drew content since it started coming out, and I'm always just hungry for more. Whatever people are willing to put in, I will watch it. So that's why I just wanted to hop in and participate in this community, in these conversations. That's really all I wanted to share. I wanted to make sure that we talked about the ethics of travel in 2026. It is a tough economy, and Nancy was a Nepo baby, and not all of us are. So that being said, I'm so excited to share my next video with you. After this one, I've already recorded everything for that trip, but it does take me a while to put these videos together. I have 2 jobs, so hopefully as soon as I can, I will have that one out for you. And thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed.